What happened in qualifying for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? Right, let's start with Q1 then, shall we? Obviously, the biggest talking point has to be Carlos Sainz not making it out of Q1 in the Ferrari, especially with the battle for P2 in the Constructors. Absolutely, it's 4 points between Mercedes and Ferrari being the ones behind. And for Sainz to be knocked out in Q1 after a very difficult weekend up until this point, it just hasn't got any better for him.
No, he's had an absolute shocker this weekend. Of course, had the incident in FP2 causing the red flag, and then bottom of FP3, and you thought, what's going on with Sainz? Surely that's not going to continue into the session. But it did, and for him to go out when there's very much a chance, it's very much on between Ferrari and Mercedes. Mercedes maybe surprisingly slower than we thought that they might be, like not as competitive, certainly. So Ferrari have a very good chance to do it, but looks like it's going to just be with Leclerc because Sainz is all the way at the back. But
yeah, unfortunately for Sainz, he'll be out, but comeback drive, we'll see. I'm sure he can get into the tail end of the points at the very least. And then, of course, Magnussen, not much of a surprise considering his overall qualifying form this year. Bottas and Zhou, I was incredibly surprised to see both of them go out in Q1 because they were absolutely cooking in FP3, I think it was, wasn't it? And they looked really quick, but then again, that being said, track conditions changed massively, and perhaps the hotter conditions actually seemed to suit the Alfa Romeos, because when we got to nighttime and the track conditions being a lot cooler, they were nowhere. And for both of them to be out in Q1 was a, well, I was going to say it's a massive surprise, but then I did put Bottas as my biggest flop, so
he just remembered that
halfway
was the
around his
case.
lap.
Yeah, exactly. Alfa Romeo have just, other than Bottas being the goat around Las Vegas, they've just fallen off really, and it seems quite a regular occurrence that both of them end up out in Q1, although it didn't look like that would be the case. But again, like the field spread is so close that I guess someone has to go out. Well, 5 people have to go out in Q1, and normally, often than not, it's the Alfa Romeos.
And finally, Logan Sargeant, 20th, and should not have been 20th, because that Williams was El Rapido, especially in the first and second sectors. And Logan, unfortunately, having track limit issues on more than one occasion, I think, in Q1, and ended up not getting anywhere. And it's just such a missed opportunity again. Of course, he had that great qualifying, getting into Q3 in Las Vegas, and you're thinking, okay, all right, let's see some more of that potential. But then just pushing a little bit too hard, not staying within the white lines. And the Williams did not deserve to be knocked out in Q1. No way. So it's not like it's he was going to go out anyway, because there was an opportunity there. Maybe
how bad Sargent's been is being saved a little bit by there's this perception that Williams are absolutely awful, and they're not. It's a good car now. Albon's doing good things. He scored a lot of points for a team like Williams, who are used to, being at the back in recent years. They're going to likely finish 7th in the Constructors' title unless Yuki Tsunoda wins the race tomorrow, here's hoping. But Sargent's just had an absolute mare. This is the thing, just be a bit slower than Albon. Do exactly what he did in Vegas, and you'll get some praises. But no, both lap times deleted, not even managing to get one time in. And then that is also a 22-0 for Alex Albon, whitewashed him in qualifying. And I've said this before, and I don't want to. This is no disrespect to Alex Albon. He is a fantastic racing driver and is having an amazing season. I'm so happy for him that he's having this good season. But Alex Albon is not a Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, or Fernando Alonso, or whatever.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, exactly. But he maybe, and he's improving, and he's having a brilliant season. But there should be at least one race where he's quicker than Albon, or at least anywhere near him, and that is a really poor record.
P1 Patreon member AMG Piper asks, do you think getting 2 lap times deleted and failing to get out of Q1 could be the final nail in the coffin for Sargent? For me, I don't think it really changes too much. I think the only way it would have changed in his favour is if he'd made Q3 again. But I don't think it's a case of... It's difficult. Of course, he has to, impress at the end of the season. But what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not the be-all and end-all, the fact he's been knocked out in Q1, if you see what I mean.
I just think somehow, not that I agree with it, unsurprisingly, I think Logan will keep his seat somehow, despite quite a lackluster season and seemingly not improving from the start. If anything, his best race was Bahrain. And yeah, if anything, he's kind of got no better, if not a bit worse.
Yep, so we will have to wait and see on Logan Sargeant, but I think it's very 50-50 for me in terms of whether he keeps it or not. Q2 now, and the 5 drivers out were Hamilton, Ocon, Stroll, Albon and Ricciardo. Well. I think Lewis Hamilton is probably the first port of call once again to talk about. And I think he even said after qualifying that something wasn't right with the car. He was really not happy. But this continues, this sort of run of form of Hamilton not being able to really deliver over one lap compared to what the man's got 104 poles. And, there's no denying that he can deliver over one lap. But for whatever reason, and it's been over the course of the whole of this weekend, Russell's looked quicker. It's not like it's a bit of an anomaly and you go, oh, Hamilton's out in Q2. That's crazy. It was almost kind of expected, especially with this recent run of form that he's been having in qualifying. It's very surprising, to say the least.
I think earlier in the season, I think he gave a pretty harsh assessment in himself and saying, like, my qualifying has been abysmal or something along those lines, laying into his own qualifying. And it still hasn't seemed to improve.
Question from Mimi Hopi, who says, not to overreact, but why do you think Lewis's quali form has dropped off? Because his race pace is still GOAT tier. I think it's just a case of this car does not suit Lewis and the way in which it's kind of, I guess, Mercedes are trying to figure out how to get to Red Bull, and perhaps they're making some drastic changes. And with these changes, rather than having a consistent sort of path of which way they want to go with the car, that these kind of drastic move-offs, I guess, can sort of unstable a driver in some ways, and perhaps that's what's happened with Lewis over the last couple of years, is that qualifying's just not been a way, not been the session that he can deliver into the level that we've got used to. So it's hard to answer this one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. The fact that they're probably trying all sorts of different things as well. That's what they absolutely need to do. We'll get into this later, but maybe Mercedes, it's all part of a master plan to get more wind tunnel time and learn about the car, and Ferrari, you can have it. Go on.
Right, Q3 then. It wasn't the session that we all maybe dreamed of, where it chops and changes right to the last minute. I think the main thing we need to talk about is Lando Norris, McLaren, and what feels like we say this every time that they are quick, the missed opportunity from qualifying, and especially with Lando. It's actually paining me to watch now, where he is such a talented driver. It's just that last percent. It feels like he's said plenty of times, I think after Qatar, he was saying that the two mistakes he's made were completely different reasons, and it's not like there's one thing that he's doing, that he keeps doing, that's a problem. But the thing that is consistent is that he is making errors. And it's really hard to watch, because I genuinely think he could have got pole position today.
With Lando, I don't think it's a thing at the moment. I think it was a few more races, and as it goes on, I think that first win is definitely something that kind of could become an unfair narrative, I think, later down the line. But at the moment, it just goes down as a mistake.
To your point about, it's not really a thing at the moment about his win, I don't think it can be at the moment, just purely because the McLaren hasn't had enough opportunities to actually win a race. They've been quick on a few occasions this year, and that's about it. It's not like he's had a whole season where he's constantly making mistakes and not delivering on the performance of that McLaren. I think he will kick himself at the end of the year when he'll go, like Qatar, for example, was an absolute slam dunk win, in my opinion, if they had just delivered and optimized that particular race weekend. But apart from that, it's not like they've had it every single race weekend, because the Red Bull has been has been quickest. Question from Glamour Diary. Do you think Charles actually has a chance to win tomorrow? I mean, Charles pole, Max win, Max pole, Charles win. No. It's like, you know, I had hope for Las Vegas because of factors that I felt, you know, actually made Ferrari quick in the race. And they were quick in the race. They were able to fight for the win. Here, I know it is lower track temperatures, but it's nowhere near as low as what it was in Vegas. And it's not a low grip circuit. And I just don't feel like it's going to suit Ferrari in a Sunday condition of a race.
I'd be very surprised if Charles can take it to Max in the race. Max looks incredibly comfortable. We've always seen that normally, even when he's slower in qualifying, the race pace is where he really shines. So, and he's very good around Abu Dhabi anyway. He's won the last three years.
P1 Patreon member MZT asks, question for the pod. Charles is known to have a mistake in him, despite many of his issues over the last 2 years being team/car issues. Do you think that if Lando continues this way without a win, he risks being labelled similarly? I think we've kind of touched upon that a little bit. I think Charles having a mistake in him is unfair. When you actually list out all of the reasons why he didn't win races last year, you kind of realise that there was actually only a couple that was his fault. And when you look at all of the Charles pole non-Charles wins, there's a lot that say either he's outperformed the Ferrari, the team screwed him over, or he's had some incredibly bad luck, and his time will come. But as for Lando, I think his time will come as well. Next year, I'm hopeful for McLaren. I think that they could be up there if they figured this out. Going into next year, they could well be the closest challengers to Red Bull. And if Lando goes the whole of 2024 without a win, if this is their pace, then we start to worry a little bit, I think.
This is the thing. It's like hard to be like, oh, well, Lando's not got a win this year, but like there's literally been one race where someone other than Red Bull has got a win. And Lando was right on the back of Carlos's gearbox at the end of that race. It's painful for him that he also finished second in the race where Max was beatable. But look, I don't think it's enough for it to be a thing yet.
So let's quickly touch upon Yuki Tsunoda, because I know you're desperate to talk about him. P6 on the grid, out-qualifying Daniel Ricciardo comprehensively this weekend. And Yuki just, you know, giving AlphaTauri a little bit of hope.
Yeah, really, really impressive stuff from Yuki. I hope he can deliver in the race now, because we've seen this before where Yuki Tsunoda have a great qualifying and then either the strategy or it just doesn't really tend to work out for them. But look, with Williams 14th and 20th, maybe the 7 points is on to cover it.
Other things, George Russell, I think it's worth mentioning a brilliant performance from him, considering where Lewis Hamilton is lining up. I'm hoping for his sake that he can actually deliver on a podium, because I feel like he'll be quicker than Piastri in the race. Can he keep Norris behind? That's the question. But George has to score a podium, I think, in my eyes, just to get a bit of momentum going into next year, because he's very quietly had a pretty mediocre season for George Russell's standards. If you look back at the season before at Mercedes, where we're all kind of lauding him as what an amazing, start to his Mercedes career. So that's pretty much it, Tommy. What are your final thoughts of this final qualifying session of the year?
The qualifying session has almost kind of summarised the year a bit, with Max Verstappen being dominant, Charles Leclerc doing great things in qualifying, Nico Hülkenberg somehow putting a Haas into Q3, Sergio Perez being miles off Max Verstappen and having some penalties ready to do a bit of a comeback drive. So yeah, it's kind of quite a normal grid in a weird way, but I think it does set it up quite nicely for the race, that you're going to have Perez, Hamilton and Sainz surely coming through the field, so we should get a fair bit of action.
Wow, what a beautiful, wonderful tee-up. My final thoughts are thank you everybody for watching and listening to all of our wonderful qualifying podcasts. Qualifying is now over. We've loved sharing each and every moment with you. We look forward to more ridiculous qualifying sessions in 2024, fingers crossed. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be live on Twitch, Matt P1 Tommy, if you want to come join us for the final race of the year. Watch along, that is. And we'll have our usual content ready and waiting for you. So thank you everybody. I am still in Sweden, but I won't be tomorrow. So you will see me back in my normal setup with normal lighting. So I'm excited for that. And we'll see you very soon. Adios. Goodbye.
Bye.